Hey now, on today's podcast, we're having a great conversation with Jared Scharff. See you on the other side. All right, guys, this is Rob, host from Rob's School of Music, and today I'm talking to Jared Scharff. Jared has been the guitar player on Saturday Night Live for well over a decade, and he has a production team that he writes with, along with his solo compositions. They currently have reached records that have platinum sales. He just put out a song with Post Malone. He had a record that just came out with G-Eazy. You hear Sports Center updating me in the background. It was just a really cool talk. Turned out in the pre-interview we got to talk, and Jared is from Rockland County in New York, same county I'm from. The actual town he's from is not too far from where we actually have the school located currently. And many years back, he recorded a record with a band at the studio owned by my original guitar teacher, Ryan Ball. So we got to reconnect about that a lot. I actually saw his band, 1998 at a local spot. So it was kind of cool to talk about that. He actually played with Seth, who's a drummer here at the school. So there's a lot of really cool connections. It's special to see someone come from the same area and just kind of reach such a high level in terms of the gigs he's on, and just as a musician and a creator. Successful guy, sweetheart of a guy, great conversation. Before we jump into the interview, I just want to remind you guys that we have opened up enrollment for our Music Wizardry mini camp. It is literally open to anyone around the world. It will all be taught via Zoom the weekend of July 31st through August 2nd. Each day will feature multiple 1-hour-long seminars with various teachers from around the world. And you can basically choose to jump on the ones you want, and the ones you don't want to, you don't have to be a part of. And at the end of each night, we're going to have a recap, hangout, online campfire session, telling stories. I'm bringing in teachers from around the world, a songwriter from Sweden that I work with, an audio production studio seminar out of Utah, stuff that you can't even imagine. I can't announce it all yet, but it's one of a kind. It's never been done, and you guys want to be a part of it. There's more info on that at robschoolmusic.com, along with information about our virtual private lessons. Hope to see you guys at some of our upcoming online events or in lessons, but in the meantime, enjoy this interview with Jared Scharff. Well, as always, we do our Wednesday question and answer interview segments. Today we will be featuring the amazing Jared Scharff. Jared's been playing on SNL for 13 seasons, amongst other many amazing things, and I promised you guys I would be doing something really cool at the start off here. So I got a song coming out written by Samantha and the rest of our writing team, and it is called Outbreak, and here's a little teaser for this song, guys. Check it. So that song is called Outbreak, and it's going to be coming out hopefully Friday. So let me throw on these earphones and bring in Mr. Jared. All right, so that song is Outbreak, Heated Exchange. All right, here we go.
Yo.
Hey, dude. How are you?
What's up?
How was beautiful LA?
Great. Just playing some music?
Yeah, I was throwing something on there. We got a song coming out, so we've been teasing it for weeks, throwing it out. A little teaser, but I'm sure it was very garbled and crappy through Instagram.
Well, you're whetting the appetite.
That's what we're doing. Yeah. If you think it sounds good, what it sounds like this, then you might like it in real life.
Exactly. If it sounds decent to you over the phone, it's got to be slamming.
That's how it works, right? Cool, dude. So, we have a music school here in New York, in Rockland, and we do in-person lessons. And recently, we couldn't do in-person lessons, so we're all online. So we've been doing these interviews every week, and I'm really excited to have you on here, being another Rockland County alumni.
Right.
So, how'd you get into music? Like, what's your story? Let's start there.
Well, my parents were really into music, so it was kind of always around as a kid. You know, like I still love going on like car rides and just listening to like the pop music because like my parents would always put on classic rock, you know, and actually we didn't really listen to music much in the house. It's very strange. But like so in the car I would just hear all this stuff like and I just like had no idea like where it came from or what. But yeah, but like that was always exciting for me and I eventually started playing piano a little bit when I was really young and I didn't really like it and then public school, you know, you start taking like lessons in fourth grade or whatever. So I started taking drums, then started playing guitar not that long after that, and just really enjoyed it. It was like playing in rock bands and like summer camps and outside of like of my classes in school, and just kind of always was playing in bands. Like from that point on, it was just that was it. I was hooked.
Cool, man. Cool. What was like your first guitar that you were like, this is it? And
My first guitar.
yeah, the one that like, you know, the first one that, do you still have your first guitar? I guess is a better question.
I actually have both my first acoustic and my first electric.
Amazing. Awesome.
I actually, the only guitar I've ever sold in the history of my life, and I have maybe 35 guitars now, was my second electric guitar. And I remember the story so well. It was in that time, like, I was in high school, and like, metal was still kind of cool, but I was also really into classic rock and Clapton. So, like, I knew about the Strat, and I was into the Strat, but like, I was really into like these shred guitars, like the Ibanez guitars, like that was hip, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I bought, well, I didn't buy. My parents bought me the Alex Skolnick Testament Ibanez, you know, that super thin one,
Uh-huh.
and it was like. I remember, like, I knew I wanted it. I've seen all the ads in the guitar magazines back then because it was like, you know, a kid like drooling over like something in advertisements. And I remember like right before we were about to get it. My dad was like, "Do you want to just like try this Strat?" It was this like a Blackie, you know, like the Clapton's Blackie, like the
Mm-hmm.
black with the maple frets, whatever.
Yep.
And I played it, and I remember being like, "Oh my god, this is like mesmerizing," and I was really torn, but I just somehow like I just was like, "No, let's stick with the stupid." Like the stupid green thin Ibanez shred guitar. I wasn't even like a big shredder. And I've always like wondered about that guitar for like the rest of my life. But I will say the Strat. But I went back a year later and I I did get a black Strat.
Nice.
And I doubt it was the same one, but you never know.
Right.
Like I might have got the same one.
Right.
And that black Strat to this day is still like my number one guitar. Like
Awesome.
bury me with it. Like I've played it at MSG, Carnegie Hall, like at Rangers games on SNL, like everywhere. Like that. Oh man, it's like, and it's in New York right now, and I'm in LA, and
Oh no.
yeah, so it's like such a bummer, like that it's not here with me, you know. But that's yeah. So anyway, I sold that Ibanez like sometime when I was in college or something because I was like, I will never. This like guitar sounded like paper,
Right.
like paper with humbuckers, you know, and a whammy bar. And it kind of goes with my whole thing of like I hate selling things because I'm not a hoarder, but I'm more of a like a FOMO kind of guy.
Uh-huh.
And like I wish I had that guitar to this day.
Sure.
Cause like now it would be so fun to just like take it out and as like a party trick or just like I don't have anything that does that. It would have been so
Right.
fun to have that and like the one that I had in high school, you know?
Yeah, man. I ironically I got a similar situation as I in high school I had an Ibanez RG 760. It had a humbucker, two single coils, whammy bar, the whole thing. and I put an EMG 85 in the bridge to make it even more metal. And I sold it at a East Coast Music Mall in wherever that was, Connecticut maybe. And I search, I want to say weekly, it might be daily on Reverb to see if that guitar pops up. And it's not popped up yet. But just same thing, like it'd be cool to still have it.
It would be cool. I know, but then it's like I think about space, and obviously, like my apartment is in New York. Like it's not big. Like I only have like a couple guitars there. I can't like store all this stuff.
Right.
You know, so eventually when I'm in a big house and I can have 75 guitars laying around, I'll try to find it.
That time will come. Don't you worry. Um, so, SNL, the Rangers games, these are big, big stages. And like I said, we're a school and we put bands together with our students and book them gigs and stuff. Anxiety and stage fright is a big thing that they have to overcome. You're playing on epic, it has to be right. um,
Yeah.
how do you have any tips for coping with that kind of stuff?
You know, I will say, okay, this is kind of a cheat.
It's
Okay.
okay. It's your stage.
This is a cheat. One of the things I love, and I don't know if this is like the most accurate part of like my personality or what, but like, there's something about being a guitar player that like you can kind of like casually like start come in like you don't like if you're not totally sure if you're playing the right chord or if you're like sometimes it's a dark stage or there's like a weird like G sharp and you're like a note you're not you don't play all the time and you're just like like you can kind of like ease into it and make sure it's right before you like attack it and you're not the bass player or the drummer that has to like define that moment
Sure.
so you can kind of cheat a little bit and you can lay out or like you can play really quietly and then until you're more confident like you can kind of fake a little bit
Yeah.
and so I kind of like that you can hide a little bit until you're like confident. So anyway, that's a little cheat, but sometimes you're kind of out there naked and you don't really have a choice. And it's the craziest moments, the moments I dread. There's one or two moments playing music that I will always dread, and I never want to do, and I might avoid a gig just because I don't want to do it. Finger picking,
Yes.
okay, because I'm not good at that. Um, or like if I had to do like a song for an artist on TV and like the intro was like some sort of like important guitar part naked, I'm just like, no, hell no, like I do not want to do. But like, if I can play it, I might suck it up. But like that really scares me to death. And oftentimes on SNL, we have a moment where like it's a sketch and I'm the only guitar player and I have to play like a part during the sketch. And you can feel the energy in the room like and you can feel that like millions of people are like ready like are waiting to hear what you're doing and you're so exposed like there is
Wow.
no option to fail and if you fail damn it that sucks but like what are you gonna do so like I feel that anxiety in those situations and I'm like I feel the nerves and I'm like oh god I don't do this but it's like you just have to remember that like as soon as you start like you just get in it
Cool.
so
Very
like
true.
you just have to like avoid the fear and then like it's kind of just like once you jump in the pool like you're in the pool and then you're
Right.
like not totally so if you can find a way to not think about what's going to happen and just try to like be in the moment and just get to downbeat you'll be all right and also you have to realize like if you mess up and like there's nothing you can do
Exactly.
and that's okay like that happens
Yes.
I've done it
We've all done it.
and
um,
I make no apology like I'll apologize and be like, oh, sorry, but like, I'm not like really bummed out because it's like, what are you gonna do? We're all human. Like,
exactly.
they wanted it perfect. We should have recorded it perfect, and they could have played it to track or whatever, or they could have hired a MIDI thing or like, I don't know, like,
I love
What
that.
do you,
Yeah.
what do you want from me? Like for piano players, it's much easier for people to like be in those moments and not mess up because it's so like everything is like so tactile and like right
Right.
under each finger.
And
But like
linear, and it's just, yeah.
yeah, it's like you can just it's there. But
Yeah.
guitar is like can be so like the strings are moving, like frets are like weird. You know, you could have like a guitar that's not doesn't have big frets, so it can be slippery.
Or the
Like
action, or sweaty
yeah, like
hands. Yeah.
yeah, like you just there's just so many other things, and it's a lot harder for a guitar player to do that. You know who I think is perfect at like doing that type of thing that I'm really afraid of is Justin Jericho.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that dude is just fearless.
Dude, it takes balls. The finger picking stuff is a nightmare. I did like a last minute booking a wedding thing, and I'm playing as this. They're walking down the aisle, and it was
Oh
me and a keyboard player, and the keyboard player was like, "You take this one," because there really wasn't keyboard in the part. It was like a train song or something, and finger picking. I'm a lefty, but I play righty, so my right hand is not meant to do anything really.
yeah,
And I'm like, and I look at him like, help me. And he jumped in, and no one noticed. But like, my heart was like, you could have seen my tux was just flying.
yeah.
I get
No,
it.
I would adapt it, or I would be like, do you have a classical guitar patch on your piano? But like, but that's like a whole other point, right? It's like if you know what your weaknesses are, like find ways around it to like
Yep.
make it work.
Yep. Awesome. That was
So,
that was a fantastic perspective, man. Thank you.
so yeah,
Yeah.
I am not fearless.
That's okay. It's fearless to admit that, so that's still winning.
Yeah,
Um, so the SNL gig, like, how did you, what was the process? So you were in a band, Velvet Frog. I saw you play many years
yeah.
ago, right here in Rockland. Um,
Regal Beagle.
yeah, dude, which is crazy. Like, as soon as you said that, I was like, that's it. I couldn't remember that for what feels like 20 years or something. And then boom, it was like yesterday. Me and
You
my
want to know
dad went.
something funny about that? The our first that CD that we made with Ryan Ball,
Hmm.
which was our first album, like in high school or college or whatever. There's a live either that CD or I think it's that CD or the second one. I think it's that one. There's a like a secret track, and it's like a live version of the song that we made, and it's from that performance.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Oh, wow. Wow. I'm part of
yeah,
history.
yeah. You're in there, bro.
Wow. That's
You made it.
crazy.
You're in my life.
Oh, that makes me feel so special. So like what came after that? Like did you go to school for music? Did you go away? Like
Yeah, I ended up going to the Hart School of Music for for a year, 2 semesters. Then ended up transferring to NYU. Um, as jazz performance major or whatever, and eventually I switched to music education major because I just didn't want to play like 4 hours of like jazz, like chromatic approach note, like arpeggios every day to like get an A in guitar class. Like I just was not interested.
right.
And I remember very well having a conversation with the head of like the music jazz department at NYU at the time. And I was like, look, like for what I want to do in my life, I'm really like, I'm good. Like I'm good enough. Like I wanted to be a rock star. I wanted to be like in an Allman Brothers jam band or play rock music, like um me and UC we're gonna start a rock band, right? See him
Yes.
I see him on the live.
Do
Um
it.
but but yeah, I and like it wasn't that I was like having an ego about it. It was just like that music is not complex. Like playing a power chord with distortion, like an A power chord, open A, or like an E or a B, like those chords with distortion are some of the most thrilling things I can ever do as a guitar player for the entirety and the rest of my life.
Yep.
There's just something about what that is so visceral and so rewarding. And like, while I do love playing my minor seventh arpeggios with an approach note above the one, and then do it again with an approach note above or below, like the third and fifth, and like I can do all that shit. I worked on it, and that's really challenging, and it's great, but didn't interest me.
Right.
So I told him all this stuff, and he just basically like screamed at me because he was, um, not a nice person. Had a little trouble with the
Mm.
and he basically like did all this stuff to get me into the program like after the date, the deadline. So he really went to bat for me, and I will give him that. So I thank him for that, but he was pissed. But anyway, left, did music education. Thought it would be good for me to learn something other than music because my whole life was so tunnel music land. And then I graduated, but I was in bands the whole time, playing in the city. And I graduated, and then two months after that, one of the bands I was in got signed to a major label record deal.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
nothing
wild.
happened with it, but you know.
It's a step in the right direction, man. A lot of people get to say that sentence. So
Well, it was interesting. Like after that band, my whole kind of trajectory was like this. Up until that point, it was like, oh, cool. I was like playing the drum set and like in the big songs and in concert band in high school and then like I was in like the cool like rock band, and then I was in college. I was getting scholarships, and I was in more bands that were like playing big shows in the city, and then like graduated and got signed. It was like everything was like and then that band was like horrific. It was like and I learned a very good lesson, a humbling and a life doesn't always work out how you want it to work out type of lesson. So that was an interesting time, and I eventually made my own project, Jared Scharff and the Royals, and like started doing that around the city and East Coast stuff, and it was cool. And we had some small success like of a local touring band or whatever, or local band, but nothing crazy. And I was also producing a lot at that time. I was really getting into that around 2007. And that's when I also got the SNL job in 2007. And so, yeah, I started doing SNL and producing kind of like, I basically was doing like 6 days a week, like 5 days in the studio, one day SNL, and then Sunday was like my day off usually.
wow.
Um, and I did that for years. And then eventually left the pop world, did my artist project, which I've always wanted to do, a indie hip guitar instrumental album that was not shred heavy or not shredder at all. I'm not a
Right.
shredder. And so did that for a bunch of years, still doing SNL, released a couple of songs of videos for the project. It's called Pearl Lion, like pearls, like a lion, Pearl Lion. And then about 2.5, almost 3 years ago, I kind of was missing working with other people and songs and vocals and pop, and so I kind of came back to that world a little bit. Signed a publishing deal with Warner Chappell, and since then I've probably had like 45 songs come out,
So cool.
platinum album, few gold records, gold single. Had a G-Eazy and Marshmallow song come out 2 weeks ago. I have a song featuring Post Malone coming out Friday.
Tommy Lee.
Yep, Tommy
Yeah.
Lee. Um, yeah, just a whole bunch of stuff. So I've been doing like all kinds of stuff, and then it's been fun like being in LA, like doing sessions and meeting all these insane talented people like Omer, who just joined the live. This kid is insane. I feel
Oh
like
yeah.
he's like a young me. When I hear him
Really?
play, I'm like, oh my god, that's like I feel like that was me. Sounds like what I would play. He's amazing though. He's better than me. What can I say?
That's good, dude. I always surround myself with people better than me. I want to be the least talented guy in the room because then it lights that fire.
Yeah, it's
That
it's it's fun. I mean, it's sometimes like even if someone's not technically better than you, they have something they can offer, and as long as
Yep.
you can keep your mind open and your ears and eyes like really open to what's happening, there's always something to take away. Like some of my favorite people that I work with like aren't very good players, but they do something that's really great, and they have great musicality, or they're
Right.
great with sounds, or it's just about like taking everyone's best, you know, finding
Yep.
what everyone's really great at and utilizing that and finding how it fits with you.
That, dude, I can't agree more. That's something that we really try to within the school here is bring out of the students. I don't want to be the school of rock or these corporate things. Like we try and give this, like all the teachers here, there's still session guys or touring guys or gigging guys. Our drum teacher, this guy, Seth Mutal, he's in another Rockland.
Seth was in Velvet Frog.
Yeah?
Yeah, early on.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, how did that never come up? Oh my gosh, I'm going to call him as soon as we're done. That's
Dude,
sick.
he was the like he wasn't the original drummer, but the original drummer was Randy Schrager, who is insane and now plays with like Jesse Malin and played with the New York Dolls for a minute when they were doing stuff.
Wow.
Wait, no, he didn't play with the Dolls. He played with some other like Scissor Sisters, that's it. Some other New Yorky thing. So Randy was the original, but he was in like other bands, so we wanted to find like our own guy, and I ended up meeting Seth, and we ended up being in a band, and we were also going to summer camp together, and we were in bands in summer camp, and man, I used to love playing with Seth.
Is this the same camp that Adam Levine? Because Seth
Yeah.
always tells a story about interacting with Adam. That's crazy, man. Small world.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a good time, man. There was like some really quality musicians. I was really lucky to be that young and play with such talented and cool people. It really like set the bar high.
Sure.
Like, oh wow, like music is like you can do such amazing stuff with such talented people, and it was just always fun, and it just made it so enjoyable, and like to be able to do that at such an early age was just such a nice thing to have.
Sure, definitely, man. You're that little synopsis of your little bio there is. I'm like sitting there. I'm like trying to take notes because there's so many little questions. Um, it's important, I think, exactly as you said. Like we'll have people that will assemble into these bands. Kids, high school age, and anyone can make their own band. It's not like we're telling them how to, make fire out of nothing. But
Yeah.
you watch how the dynamic where maybe one of the guitar players isn't technically as good as the other guy. Good, which is a silly word to even say, but as, whatever. But he has great stage presence or he has a positive attitude. Like it's this whole picture, a lot of intangible kind of things.
Yeah.
All right, SNL. I'm going to ask a few questions on SNL. So, like, how do you get a gig? How do you get a gig like that? And then, second part of it, mildly related to it, again, because we're at a school, theory and reading or something, especially with guitar players, they kind of disregard. So how much of, whatever I just asked.
Well, I will say first and foremost, you don't get SNL gig without knowing all of well, a shit ton of theory and knowledge of
Right.
music and styles. You don't even enter that equation. Not every gig is like that. This is a very specific thing, and you're not even in the running if you can't read.
Okay, cool. Good
So
to
that
hear
is,
that, kids.
yeah, you're not. It's not even an option. But yeah, I mean, I think you get that. They were auditioning a lot of people. They were getting, obviously like the music industry and especially the players community is really small, and everyone knows who's good and who's doing what. So
Right.
everyone was putting their people's names in the hat, and Lenny was meeting with everybody, our band leader, and I was recommended by the previous guitar player who was there. I knew him and he knew my playing. So that's kind of how I got my name in the hat, but I had to do all the hurdles. Like I sent like a YouTube video of me playing a song, like and like shredding, like from a live performance. Not shredding like shredding, but ripping.
I use that word in
Um,
very many different contexts. It's okay.
yeah, yeah. And that was kind of my initial audition, just to see if like Lenny was even into what I was doing. And then he emailed me, wanted me to come in and meet him, told me to bring a guitar, audition, aka. So I went in and just like a couple of hours, talked for a while, and the majority was really just him kind of trying to figure out like what I knew. It's like what my musical history, what my background was. Did I know a lot of the music and the styles that they play on the show?
It's so
Like,
diverse.
yeah, like, am I a good person? Am I a dick? Like he was. Most of it is like, what is this guy's vibe? And then like 2 hours in or later, we started doing a few songs, and that was when it was like, all right, I have to sight read, which I was terrible at the time, and play, and not to mention through like a broken tiny like bass practice amp.
Wow.
Thank God I brought a distortion pedal, because like, you see, that's another thing, right? Always be prepared. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna have, but if there's anything that I need, it's at least a distortion pedal.
Right.
So I brought it. Thank God I did. Um, and yeah, so just played a couple of songs, and I got a call back. So it was me and three other guitar players got the call back to play with the entire band, and more sight reading, less like barely any time to look at the music. Played like 6 songs, and that was it. And I remember like the first song was a cover that I knew, so thank God it eased me in. Um, and they were like, yeah, for the solo section, just like do as long as you want, and just look, give us the nod when you're done. So in my brain, I'm like, this basically, I can either like, they're either like they love it from this, or they're like, we're not sure, let's see how it goes. But I could win from this right here. Like if I just blow it out of the water, like on the first attempt, their first view of me, it's like I knew that was like the most important. So I just fucking went for it.
Nice.
And I played like a long solo, and they had to like stop me and reel me back in. And then after we were done, everybody was like laughing, and it totally broke the ice.
That's
And
great.
I was like, you told me to play as long, like to keep going. So I was like, all right, I'll keep going. So
That's all.
that I just went for it. Like I think sometimes the point I guess I want to make is like, first impressions are really important.
Sure.
And when you have the opportunity to like break down the door, you got to break down the door.
I like that.
So, because that from that point on, they were like, okay, all right, what else you got? Versus like, that was whatever. Let's keep going through. Let's see the next guy. Like, you know what I mean?
Sure. That's
Anyway,
fantastic. And that
sorry.
takes, you know,
I could just answer the questions. I just feel like these are important points as a professional musician and producer that I think are really important to
dude,
me.
and I'm so grateful for that because, like, some of the people we've discussed, they give the very blanket statement because they're trying to be, this is what he wants to hear. No, I want to hear like the real shit, man. Like, you're dropping bombs of knowledge now. So thank you. That's
I mean,
so accurate.
thank you. That's my opinion on it.
I love it, man. So the SNL thing, like, how does that? So you have the publishing deal with Warner Chappell. Like, how do you get a publishing deal? Like, how does that process work?
Well, I was lucky in the fact that a person that I was in a production team with, writing production team early on in 2007 for a few years, um, he'd gone on to be a very big songwriter, and he had started doing joint ventures and signing people to his own thing. So not only did he know my work ethic and my ability from back in the day, we were also very close. And he was a big fan of the Pearl line instrumental music, especially the production. So
Right.
when I came back to him being like, yo, like I miss doing all this, and I also had this idea of like sending out loops and all these ideas to like hip hop and working more in the hip hop space with my guitar stuff.
Which is
We kind of
brilliant.
thought,
That's a
thank you,
brilliant angle, man. That's to use the guitar in that way.
yeah.
Great.
So we kind of thought like we had a good pitch for like
Yeah.
doing something. So I hit up. So we just walked into Warner Chapel, and I've been doing some like remixes of things just to kind of flex some production stuff. We talked about the guitar folder aspect idea in the hip hop space. We talked about my Pro Lion instrumental stuff. So there was a lot, like to offer, and they were super into it. Like I didn't shop around, and I was like, that was it, and then moved on.
It's fantastic. So
And
cool.
because I had a job where I was making a living, I didn't need money from the publishing company, so I made sure that I negotiated a very, very, very small amount of money so that I got a really fair deal.
That's smart too.
So I used that leverage.
You got a great business mind. That's very cool to hear.
Thank you. I mean, I'm not great at like making businesses, but I feel like I make good choices sometimes.
100%, man. I mean, that's something again we try and instill in the students here. You know, a lot of them see what a lot of the teachers here are doing as wow, you can make a living in music if you're not the artist. You don't have to be a rock star. You can, you know, play at some corporate event on a Saturday, and then on Sunday do a session gig, and then and you know just split yourself into all these different little funnels that come back to okay, I can pay my rent. It's really
Yeah,
cool.
I think that anyone who thinks that they can make a living just doing one thing these days um, doesn't know the business,
Right.
and that's fair because they're not in it probably. Um, it's pretty impossible to do just one thing. You have to today you have to be more diverse than ever before, but that's a good thing because that's the best way to stay busy.
And to
And
keep not bored.
right, and you can get lucky and be able to do one thing and make a really good living if you keep at like if you're in a band and that gets really successful. If you're you're producing songs and you're doing really well and like you have some big songs or just you're producing a lot and getting paid a lot or you're mixing or like you can make a living doing one thing. It's just challenging. And so
Sure.
most people need to do multiple things. And I'm making a living doing one thing, but I'm doing like four different things.
Right.
It's because like that's what excites me and that's what I want to do.
Yeah. That's great, man. It gives you the freedom, to follow your passions and have fun with it and not feel like, oh my gosh, if this doesn't happen, I'm done. Like you can balance it, I guess, which is a skill in itself to balance all the different personalities and, parts of your brain.
Yeah, I mean like, when the time comes if I'm not at SNL anymore, it's like I'll be, producing full time and all that stuff, which I pretty much am doing already, but like I'll still find ways to play gigs. Like it won't be like cuz I won't need to like make $200. It's not about that. It's like I want to still play live because it's something I enjoy and I
Right.
love to do. Like these things they'll never go away. Like this is what I do. This is what I love to do.
Right. That's
You know?
awesome. I think passion is a huge part of it. As I played in the very beginning before you came, my girlfriend's a singer. I play guitar. We have a guy in Utah and a guy in Arizona, and we write music together. This guy in Sweden sometimes as well. And we finally are putting a song out after quite some time of, back and forths. And this is my first time being in the original music space in like a decade. So
Oh
it's
wow.
scary, but it's exciting to be creative and think with that part of my head that's been so dormant for so long. So it's I get it, man. It's cool. It's very cool.
Yeah. It's important to do all those things, man. They all like occupy different headspaces and have different rewards.
Yep, definitely, 100%. Now, so you're producing, so like the Post Malone, the Tommy Lee song, and then Stand by Me, G-Eazy, and then the stuff with the baby. Is that all with Queen 60s, or is that you? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so that the baby song came about with my one of my production groups called Queen Sixties. It's just three of us. We just like do a lot of full band style music without drums to send to some of my beatmaker buds. And
Cool.
then the G Easy one was like started out as a collaboration with me and my buddy Runes. Was a loop that we made that Marshmallow he gave to Marshmallow. Marshmallow got it to G. I don't know their story. And then Marshmallow sent it back to us with a vocal with the acapella and like where Marshmallow had taken it for us to like add more stuff. So I just like, we added a bunch of things and like did what we thought it needed for production, sent it back to Marshmallow. He did a few things, and that was that. So a lot of back and forth. And then the Tyla featuring Post Malone one is also just was from a loop of music that me and the same guy Runes made together. That a friend of mine in Atlanta, when I was going to Atlanta, doing a lot of sessions in Atlanta at the start of my publishing deal. Uh, One of those guys made a beat to that, and I don't know how he got it to Tyler, but that's how that happened.
That's so cool, man. It's this flying back and forth of sessions. That's something that we've been forced to do with the students. Is we'll give you a drum track with a click. Now try your very best using GarageBand on your iPhone to play something to it, and forcing people to experience something that's like you do it every single day. But when you're 14, it's so daunting. It's cool to see them kind of step up to it.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a world, this obviously pandemic world right now, but like we live in a world where the majority of things are done collaboratively,
Right.
and you kind of have to be able to do something at home and be able to send something back and relatively quickly. Like if you're someone who doesn't send stuff back to anybody, and like people are just gonna move on.
Yeah, completely. What do you use? Pro Tools generally?
I do Pro Tools mostly. I do a little bit of Ableton here and there as well.
Cool.
But
I
yeah,
just started to mess with Ableton. It scared me forever, and then I just got it with like the push, and I'm like, oh, this isn't so bad. It kind of makes sense.
I just can't get around it very well.
No, because it's not linear in the same way. And I know you can do a view like that, but it's not the same thing. It's
Oh, so
weird.
I only do the Pro Tools view on Ableton.
Yeah, see, when I do that in Ableton, it trips me up because I almost feel like you're not supposed to. Like it wants to go the other way, and having the controller finally made that make sense to me. But I don't know. I'm like 3 weeks in, so we'll see if I
No,
stick with it.
I mean you know what it is, man. It's like whatever's gonna inspire you to create, and
Yeah.
however you your flow is. That I mean, that's why everyone uses different things.
Yeah, I've been using Logic a lot recently. I was a Pro Tools guy forever, and then our guy in Utah we work with, he's like, I just got into Logic. I think you might like it, and I'm really liking it.
I'm like a real like audio editor,
Uh-huh.
and it's just so hard to do it on Logic and
Oh,
Ableton.
completely. We do all our vocals in Pro Tools still because the editing is you can get in there.
Yeah, it just makes sense to me visually, and I'm
Yep.
so visual that like I don't know that I'll ever fully switch.
What do you think about like modelers and stuff? That's a big question because a lot of these kids are watching all the shred guys on Instagram, and I mean I got an Axe FX3 over here, so I'm not a purist by any means. But what do you think about that stuff?
Um, a lot of the songs that I've had come out have just been Kemper.
Yeah.
I have a single coming out in July. This artist Run for Short. She's on Interscope. I forget. All Kemper.
Cool.
Oh, actually, no. I'm just kidding. That was my Fender, but with the Ox,
Okay.
the
Cool.
UA Ox.
Yeah.
But I've been using Kemper for ages, taking it to all my sessions in the last 2.5 years. Um, I've got the Strymon Iridium when that came out. I've used that a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
So I've been taking that to more sessions instead of the Kemper because it's a lot smaller and
Right.
less heavy. So I mean basically I just set it on clean, use my pedals for whatever else I need, and that's it.
What kind of
All every
pedals are
day.
you taking? Like, what's your go-to session pedal rig? And obviously, we're going to get to this pedal within this
Uh,
conversation, but
yeah, I use that one quite a bit. Um,
yeah, I'm sure you do, man. It's so versatile.
yeah, and I ironically rarely use it with as a fuzz, which is like the best thing about it. But I use a lot of Walrus audio pedals, a lot. as much as possible. No, a real lot. I have some vintage pedals. Sometimes I don't know. I have a whole bunch of stuff. It's kind of like my feeling on that. It's like it doesn't really matter what we all use.
Right.
You want a fuzz, use a fuzz. You want distortion, use distortion. You want a chorus, find a chorus you like. Like it's all the same. It's all the same shit.
Right.
It's just like what shade of blue do you want? But it's
I
still
like that.
blue.
That's very
And
smart.
people get like so wrapped up in like what's on your pedal board, blah blah blah. And I get that. But like you have to find what works for you. And like sometimes like I'll use a chorus pedal on something and maybe I'll use the Walrus Julia, and then like I have a vintage chorus like the blue the blue Boss chorus like the
The
old one.
CE2 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I'll
Yeah.
use that. Sometimes I won't use it at all, but I'll use chorus on Pro Tools with some of the plugins. Like it
Right.
just depends. You know, like people shouldn't get bogged down in like what gear you use. It's like just use what inspires you to
Right.
create. You know, like I've heard I've heard people do amazing things with the shittiest gear, and
Right.
I've heard the greatest gear to me sometimes sounds like absolute dog shit, but sometimes it's perfect.
Right.
You know, like I'm a big Strymon fan. I have the Big Sky, I love it. I have the Iridium, love it. You know, but like I've never been like a huge Timeline fan. You know, I just think it gets like a bad rap because of like all the like time delays, and I'm just like, this is just so like boring to me.
Right.
But then you'll see a video with someone using the timeline on a synth or some interesting guitar patch, and you're like, how the hell did you get that sound? It just
Yeah.
depends, you know. Like that's why it's like it doesn't matter. Get
Yeah.
what you can afford and that you like, and just make magic with it.
It's totally true, man. Like I'm definitely addicted to gear more than I should be, but it's for the purposes of let's take something that's meant to do something and do something totally different with it. For a long time, I was in bands. We never had keyboard players. I've never played to tracks. We always do everything live. So it fell on me as the guitar player to take whatever pedals I had on the floor and make so many different sounds with them. And sometimes people come over and they look, and you get, it's a guitar player right away because they're standing there like this looking. And it's like, shut up. Like, it doesn't matter. Would it make it better if that delay pedal was $600 versus, my DD3 I've had since high school? Doesn't matter,
Yeah,
spot
yeah,
on.
yeah. Like it's all flavor, right? It's like I have
Right.
two vintage Memory Mans. They're both like $500 each. Like one I got for free, like when I was in a signed rock band, like when we had album budget and like it was like the 2000s and they were like not expensive back then. And then
Right.
one I bought like a few years ago for like fucking $500.
Right.
But like because I needed like another one. I don't remember why. I don't remember why I bought another one. That was so dumb. But like when I bought one, I was like trying to get it modded by Analog Man. Maybe it was $400. Anyway, it was like a crazy amount of money, and I was like, "This is my favorite delay pedal in the world. Might as well take the leap, you know." But like, it changes. Like growing up, I was using like the Boss DD5, and I loved it. You know, like
Mhm.
then I got the Memory Man, and that was my favorite thing. Then it was like, oh, this is too big for a pedal board. I mean, it's like you start going down the road of like, okay, well, what cops this? And it's like, oh, I got the El Capistan. Oh, that's really cool. Oh, I have the ARP 87 Walrus Audio came out. Oh, that's sick. I love that. You know, like they're all just like it all does the same thing.
Right.
I set them all the same way. It's virtually the same thing. The only difference is like the size of the pedal and like is the delay brighter, darker, or more warbly? It's like there's no
Yeah.
difference. That's the only difference. But that being said, like that's a huge difference. Like
Yes.
I don't like digital delay anymore. I don't like clean delay tech.
Right.
So whatever pedal, even if it's digital that I get, I would have to use like a lo-fi option. So like on the ARP 87, a Walrus, I use the lo-fi delay setting because
Yep.
like I just like that tone.
Totally. And these
So
little nuances. I'm sorry. Go
Yeah.
on. I cut you off.
No, that's it.
Um,
You
I
know what I was gonna say? The one thing I will say is like sometimes when you hear a sound that you love and you don't know how they made it, it's like looking at someone's pedal board is great because you're like, oh, I didn't know this pedal could do that, and it might give you an idea.
Yep.
I've certainly done that. Like, how did you make that sound? You know, like because sometimes like it's how people use something that you didn't think about, and that's when you want to know what it is because
And
you like
having
the sound that you want to replicate.
and having access to be able to see stuff like that now, it's so amazing. I remember I started playing guitar when I was 13. So what year is that? 95, 96, something like that. And dude, like I would sit there and listen to, tape stuff off the radio and be like, how does Metallica sound like that? What's going on? And like you can just on the internet and it's right there. I didn't have that.
I mean, I remember when the first Rage Against the Machine album came out.
Yeah.
It changed my life
Sure.
because I was like, I did not know that a guitar could make this sound,
Yep.
and that like took me on like a lifelong quest of like making the guitar not sound like a guitar.
I love that. I love that because no one ever expects it. Like so many people like they liken the guitar to like baseball where it's just like it's been there forever and it hasn't evolved and it's what it is. But you can totally do stuff that no one sees coming if you just mess around. Like don't follow what you're supposed to do. Don't listen to, you know, the the distortion goes after the wah. Well, does it have to?
Yeah.
Little things. I
Well,
love it.
some there are some rules because I think if you put a fuzz before a wah, like it won't work.
Well, no, because you start to it's wahing the distortion. It's a disgusting sound, but it can
No,
do
but
it.
isn't there something that like I haven't done it in ages, but like if you put something before a wah, like the wah squeak makes that like a squeak sound, it like won't work.
That may be it. I don't remember. I
I
honestly
think
don't.
I think it's I think it's that,
No, well then I've misspoke. One rule we can't do. Forget that
but I don't
one.
know. But yeah, like come to think about it, it's like it would be really cool to put a wah at the end of a like uh, an effect rig that had like some really cool verb and interest like vibey delay and chorus and this like cool washy sound, and then you're like treating the wah pedal like a filter, which
Yeah.
you could, but even better so you can do that with the conga because it doesn't have the crappy resonance like a wah does.
Yes. Yes. Dude, having the ability to have the expression pedal on what this does was brilliant. How did you think of that? That is like in my mind, I always had this vision of like taking sound and just warping it, and
Yeah,
this does that.
yeah. I wanted to kind of like do two things with this pedal. I wanted to make the 60s K filter fuzz like a modern pedal friendly version, but I wanted to be able to do it without fuzz so that you could get that like DJ filter sweep
Hmm.
that like you could do with the like because I was doing it so much on plugins for tracks, DJs were doing it, like it was just such a part of modern music culture that I needed to figure out like how to do it. So when I was pitching this pedal to Walrus, I was like, I want to be able to do this with and without, the pedal and with or without fuzz. That was kind of the idea. And so half the times I use it as like an EQ shaper when I'm recording, or sometimes I just use it as like a slight envelope opening, like that's barely even noticeable. It just gives it some movement, almost like an LFO and a synth.
Right.
Sometimes I use it on the fuzz and like turn the volume down and get that super bit crushed, like sputtery fuzz thing.
Right.
Sometimes
It's
I
like a
just
ring
do
modulator almost.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just do straight on fuzz, like with the pedal. Like I mean, I just use it all kinds of ways. So fun.
And this is on, you have a couple of these on the SNL board,
I
right? That's
do,
that
yeah.
picture. That's awesome.
So one I use as a fuzz. So I have it set like just a normal fuzz the way I like it, which I love the vintage side. Um, and the filter is set so it's like kind of Queens of the Stone Age kind of cool fuzz, like a secondary fuzz sound. And then the next one I use as like an envelope filter, like an auto wah. You know,
Cool.
so it's like set more like Jerry Garcia, like auto wah type effect, and I mostly use it clean. Sometimes I'll engage the fuzz if I wanted something weirder, as like an auto wah with fuzz.
It's fantastic.
Yeah,
It
so
does so much.
use it as two pedals.
That's the best way you can, man. I think I need a second one then. I
I
used
mean,
it on. We played in Vermont at the beginning of this year, a big corporate cover thing, and we were doing moves like Jagger,
yeah,
and I wanted to swell in what was happening, and I was using this, and everyone's like, "Wait, is that your wah pedal? You got a Q, what are you, Qtron?" I'm like, "No, no, no, no. It's my fuzz pedal. Figure it out."
yeah. Well, because with the wah pedal, you get an annoying that nasally
Yeah,
you
it's
wah thing,
obnoxious.
and it just sounds. Yeah, first of all, it hurts your ears, and it's like not a pleasing sound. This is more, just a low pass filter, so it's just gonna
Yep,
give you that thing.
yep, yep. So cool, man.
It's
Um,
actually funny you mentioned that because I used to have conversations with James from Room Five,
yeah.
and he was like needed a pedal that did that for animals, the intro to
Uh
animals,
huh.
and like I remember like we were trying to figure out like how do we make this happen, and I was like, why isn't there a fucking pedal that does this? Like it's on so many songs. Like we need like a filter pedal,
Right.
and then years later,
You
boom,
made it happen.
I made it happen.
That's so cool, man. Well, all right, we have 6 minutes, so I'm gonna ask one last thing of you, and then obviously thank you so much for this, dude. Like this has
Oh
been
yeah,
so educating, and that's really what I want to do with this. So thank you for your time.
my pleasure.
Um,
I'm glad we got to make a donation to the ACLU, and that's really
yes,
cool. And
that's what I was right about to say. Thank you for that. That is
oh,
so wonderful.
my pleasure.
Um, you have any hobbies outside of music that you can answer in a handful of seconds?
Hockey,
Hockey, yeah, big fan.
hockey. I love. I'm like insane with hockey. I love playing hockey. I'm insane with ice cream. I love ice cream. Um,
Chocolate or vanilla?
neither.
Oh yeah, where are you going?
I go like this place Jenny's, and I get a lot of like the tart fruit ice creams, or some of the
Nice.
like more caramelly things.
Okay.
I like it. I like it all, man.
Yeah.
Um, I also like. I'm starting to learn how to cook a bit more during the quarantine, so I'm trying to like. I just took a cooking class yesterday on Zoom with like 100 people.
Nice.
That was pretty fun. But yeah, hockey is like huge.
Awesome. That's fantastic. I love it when, you know, when I was in high school, if you were a musician, you couldn't be athletic, which
Yeah.
was just, it's one or the other. And then, like I said, my girlfriend, she's a singer. She played volleyball at, a college level, but she was a
Wow.
singer the whole time. And it's like, it's still like, oh, what do you got a gig? But it's so silly, like physical
Yeah.
fitness and staying active. That's the real deal.
I know. Yeah. It's funny as I went down the hockey path like the last couple of years, realizing and meeting how many like musicians that are hockey dudes and play hockey.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
That's awesome.
Really talented ones.
There you go.
For
We're
real.
proving the stigma incorrect.
And a lot of hockey players actually play guitar and stuff too. They're like into guitar. And they love music.
Well, then they're cool people.
Yeah, like I work with Skulu and they have a lot of hockey coaches and stuff, and it's like I do some guitar lessons on there. And yeah, so they always tell me like, oh, this hockey guy like plays guitar, like maybe we'll get a lesson with you. I was like, cool. Yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
hear about it all the time.
I saw a question here. What did you make? What have you been cooking? What was
Last
your
last right last night I made pineapple sausage Thai fried rice and chicken pad Thai. The second time I made it, but finally nailed it.
nice?
Um, I also learned how to make spicy penne alla vodka during this quarantine from scratch. That's killer. Not the pasta because I'm gluten free, but the sauce.
Okay,
So those are like
cool.
the big crushed it.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Those are complex things to make, man. That's no joke.
Getting there. Oh, and guacamole. I
Awesome.
like mastered guacamole.
Oh, I saw that guacamole picture you had on Instagram. That looked like professional guac.
It's like the real deal.
That's awesome.
Yeah. One day, if
All right, dude, they're gonna shut us down
Jeanette,
in like a minute. Broke up. I didn't hear. What was the last thing you said?
Oh, you froze. I said if we're in the same place after quarantine one day, I got to make some guacamole.
I would love that, brother. That would be my thing. I'll bring the chips. We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Awesome, dude. Well, thank you so much, Jared. Like, incredible. Thank you. Stay safe. Enjoy California. You know, definitely, if you're ever in Rockland, dude, we'll hang. It'll be beautiful.
Yeah, my pleasure. And if